You're watching Business Incorporated live from Channels HQ. Coming up, Kenyans living and working abroad defied the tough economic times to send home a record 497 billion shillings in 2022. Ghana interest rates remain stable despite the government achieving more than 52% oversubscription of Treasury bill sale. Plus, data from CAPMA show Egypt's exports rose by 23.3% in 10 months of 2022. Hello and welcome to the program. I'm Ladi Williams. First off, let's take a look at how the markets are looking, starting on the African continent. We see it's mostly positive sentiment, but the NGX there snapping the gains we saw last week. They're down 0.16% at intraday. And we see the South Africa GSE there, 79,497 points. That's close to the 80,000 mark at this point. And now we see the Egyptian market there, that's up 2.16%, a big move up there, 15,896 points, while Kenya there closed Friday down 0.60%. Let's take a look at what's happening in the Middle Eastern continent now. We see Abu Dhabi index there, that's up 0.40%, 10,251 points. And we see Dubai index, 3,328 points. That's up 0.15%. It's mostly positive sentiment there. Saudi Arabia, also in the green, though marginal, 0.08%. And we see the Qatari index, that's trading 10,841 points, down 1.09%. So the Qatari index there, the only laggard at intraday. Let's move on to Middle East, to the European trading market now. See, police in Western Germany have removed all but 2 climate activists who have been protesting a planned coal mine expansion. The village of Lützerath, the site drew thousands of protesters over the weekend, including Swedish climate activist Greta Thunberg. Let's talk to Janelle de Malon now, right there in Berlin. Great to have you, Janelle. So the police there have been criticized for excessive use of force. What's the update and how's it looking right now?
As is often the case with protests, activists say one thing and the police say another. Police say Saturday's demonstration drew 15,000 people, while organizers said there were at least 35,000. But it's clear that police used water cannon, batons, and pepper spray to repel 1,000 or so activists who tried to get into the cordoned-off village. And the demonstrators' medical service then said a, quote, high double-digit to triple-digit number of participants had been injured, many seriously and some critically. For their part, police say that only 9 activists had been injured and that there were injuries sustained on their side as well. Among the demonstrators, of course, as you mentioned, was climate activist Greta Thunberg. She was the main speaker at Saturday's rally and returned to speak again on Sunday. She criticized the plans to mine the coal and said it was incomprehensible at a time where it's known that climate change is causing devastation in many parts of the world. She said that Germany, as one of the world's biggest polluters, has an enormous responsibility. And that as long as the coal is still in the ground unmined, then the fight in Lützerath is not yet over.
And what's next for plans to expand coal mining in the area?
What the activists were actually doing was to occupy the area in order to prevent the long-deserting village from being demolished to make way for the mine's expansion by energy operator RWE. At the moment, that looks like this operation is going to continue. The demolition efforts are ongoing, and RWE says that the actual mining could begin as early as the spring. But the village has become a symbol of the hard compromises that especially the Green Party of Germany's economy Minister Robert Habeck and coalition partner to the Social Democrats have had to meet. The Greens got RWE to bring forward the phase out of coal in the region by 8 years to 2030. In return, the company agreed to save 5 villages slated for demolition, but Lutterat would be demolished as the last part of RWE's expansion plan. But this has been a special headache for the Greens. Economy Minister Robert Habeck has insisted that pragmatism is the way here, given the situation where Germany needs to make up for the shortfall in energy triggered by the disruption of Russian gas supplies. At the same time, the Greens are the party of climate progressives, and many, especially the activists in Lutzerat, feel betrayed that the Greens could sign off on a plan to mine brown coal, known to be especially dirty. So there are no easy answers here in Germany when it comes to climate and politics, and Lutzerat has very quickly come to represent that tension.
Yeah, climate protesters not happy at this time. But finally, what's going on in the markets?
European markets are expected to be on the more upbeat side today as cooling inflation data in the US last week continues to cheer investors. But in focus also for European investors is the World Economic Forum, which has now kicked off in Davos in Switzerland. Heads of state and business leaders are expected to discuss the war in Ukraine, the world economy, and climate change. But all eyes will be on the deals that are made on the side, as is common in this gathering of the world's elite. But as with every passing year, there will be discussions around to how relevant it still is as a platform to effect change in the world amid a cost of living crisis and a shrinking attendee list of world leaders and heavyweights. German Chancellor Olaf Scholz is the only G7 leader in attendance this year. Now, the theme of this year's forum is cooperation in a fragmented world, and it runs until the end of the week, with investors watching speeches, statements, and whatever market-making news can come out of the event very closely.
Yeah, investors definitely watching that event right now. All right, thank you so much. That was Janelle Dumlon right there in Berlin. But now let's take you back now to the NGX equities market there. Our local boss, see how sentiment is looking at intraday. Joining us now is Abdurrashid Momo, stockbroker, TRW Stockbrokers. Great to have you on the show.
Good morning, Laddie.
Morning.
Good afternoon. How are you?
Yeah, sorry, good afternoon, actually. So last time I checked, the market was down. That's the local bourse is down about 0.16%. How's it looking right now?
It's still down. Most of the indexes are down for now across the board. The market is down by 0.26% now. That's about 136.72 points down. And most of the major indexes are down except, I think, NGX Insurance and Oil and Gas.
All right, looking at... okay, you can carry on.
Yeah, basically, you know how the markets operate. For every bull trend, there will always be a correction, right? My point for the index has been like about 50,000 points, which we hit. The last time we spoke, I said I think the market might be targeting the 4,000 points to see how far it goes. From what we are seeing now, the market is taking a breather before it moves it takes its next move. And critically, what I'm watching now is last week there's a pattern happening in the market now, and it's very in terms of the chart. Number one, Fidelity actually hit Fidelity has been trending higher highs from 2009 till date. And then the current price closed on Friday about 510, actually coincides with a strong recent level it did in 2009. GT, from what I've seen on GT has broken a 1 year downtrend, and what it's targeting now will be the lower lows it created in let's say 2020, and the main one was actually 2018. So it's a downtrend. We are making higher lows, but it's actually knocking on the door of the last resistance period. So what we are going to see now, we're going to see a lot of that area is where we are seeing GT now actually having people are taking profit within that level. If GT breaks that level, is going to be a new trend entirely for this stock. And it's going to follow the same suit is going to be for Zenith shares. So I'm watching closely these recent levels, see how market is going to react. But for
Okay.
now, it's more profit taking.
Profit taking at this time. But
Yes.
what other stocks are on your radar this time?
I'm looking at I'm actually looking at NACO too. NACO has been, well, I think, proud to their expected financials coming in. NACO has been very strong lately. You know, you don't have to tell me, even from the chart, you don't have to tell me how good or how bad the result is. NACO has been doing well from, let's say, 2022 till date. I mean, let's say 20 years till date. It's been trending higher. It's consolidated within the period of 2021. So we expect um, a breakout, and I expect the stock to get to at least 9 naira plus in the long term.
We'll definitely be watching out for that. Looks like it might actually be a bearish close. That's if there's
Yeah,
no
definitely. It cannot be
reversal.
bulls all the time. It can't be bulls all the time.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
the truth is, in the near future, the only thing I can see about the market is prices are making new highs, but indicators are not making new highs. That's actually a strong bearish divergence. The divergence might actually happen, let's say, 2, 3, 4 months. You know, because we predict from historical past, present, and we forecast the future. So basically, the markets are making higher highs, but the indicators are not making new highs. So that's one thing we need to be cautious about. When that will happen, we don't know. But for now, I think people should just enjoy the bull rally.
Just enjoy the rally. What's your outlook for
Yeah.
this week? Are we going to see a positive weekly close or negative? What are you seeing?
The for me, if the market comes down, that means it gives the bull momentum to actually hit. I know they are likely targeting the 54,000 points. When it's going to come, I don't know, but I think that's where the market wants to head to 54,000 points. 54 is what we watch.
All right,
So
54K
for a
level.
market to go down, it's better for the bulls to give himself more momentum to the upside, because for now the market is actually overbought.
Overbought. Thank you so much. That was Mr. Abdurrashid Mohammed, broker at TRW Stockbrokers, giving us the technical analysis for intraday at the NGX. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Yep.
All right, let's take it on to Asia now. See markets in Asia Pacific mostly rose on expectations of cooled inflation in the U.S. as it lifted investor sentiment. They will see the Nikkei 225 there, 25,822 points, down 1.14%. And Shanghai there, 3,227 points. That's up 1.02%. Look quite bullish. HSI, 21,746, marginal gain of 0.04%. Other areas there, Kospi 2,399, that's up over 0.5%. And we see the ASX 200, 7,388 points, up 0.82%. We see restrictions last month. The announcement came out, the organization criticized China there, alleging it was underreporting there, talking about the reopening of China. So that's been getting some flashbacks there. See the market and investors actually look into that to see how the market actually plays out with a full reopening of the China economy. Let's look at all markets now. We see oil prices dipped in early trade today, but held close to the highest levels since the start of the year on optimism that China's reopening will lift fuel demand at the world's top crude importer, that's China. Brent crude fell about 36 cents to $84.92 a barrel, while US WTI was at $79.65 a barrel. Below that $80 level, it's down 21 cents to 0.3% amid the thin trade during a US public holiday today. Both contracts rose more than 8% last week, the biggest weekly gain since October after China's crude imports rose 4% year-on-year in December, while Lunar New Year travel brightens the outlook for transportation fuels. And now to our next conversation. MSMEs play a major role in most economies, particularly in developing countries. SMEs account for the majority of businesses worldwide and are important contributors to job creation. Let's get a sense of MSME funding in Africa in 2022 and get an outlook for 2023. Join us now is Shina Arugundade, CEO Trade Lender. Join us via Zoom. Great to have you on the program.
Thank you very much, Ladi. Thank you for having me on the program.
Yeah, so what's your assessment of MSME funding in 2022? Do you think at some point the taps were turned off?
I think I'd like to start by giving kudos to SMEs in Nigeria and across Africa. They've been very resilient. They've survived recession, survived pandemic, most of surviving insecurity and even global inflation and even inflation here in Africa. But across Africa, these guys contribute over 90% to over 90% of the jobs we have, and they contribute, for instance, in Nigeria, they contribute 50% of the GDP. But still, they don't have enough. I think there's now more focus on them. So the taps are not being closed, but the taps are not as open as we would love them to be. There still needs to be conscious efforts to support these guys. Take, for instance, in Nigeria, the Nigerian Institute of Economic Research says 73% of SMEs in Nigeria, they get the money for their businesses personally. They fund the businesses personally. So a lot of them hardly have access to financing. It is also worth to note that across Africa, the ratio of loans to private sector is generally low. In Nigeria, for instance, is 12%. The ratio of loans to the GDP in Nigeria is 12% compared to other countries, although there are still countries in Africa that have over 100%, like of South Africa. But there needs to be more focus. Today, we have focus from private sector, the IFC, the federal governments are starting to do some things in Nigeria. We are starting to see specific loans through the SMEDAN, through the AG, SMEIS, NILSA, and the likes. And banks today in Nigeria and even across Africa are starting to have heads of SMEs whose focus is mostly to provide funding to these SMEs even as they go forward. But the gap across Africa is still large. Across Africa, we still have a gap of over $150 billion. In Nigeria alone, we have a gap of 13 trillion naira, and that's over $32 billion here.
And what are you seeing on the horizon for MSME funding in 2023? What tailwinds are you seeing and headwinds?
I think I'll start with the headwinds. Take, for instance, in Nigeria, it's an election year. So a lot of things will be dependent on the elections. But across Africa, we still have a lot of regulatory constraints, financial infrastructure, recovery is still an issue. So a lot of these lending to SMEs is still considered high risk, even though these guys are much. Across Africa, we have over 50 million of them to try and building day by day. But we are hoping that the year, most of these things will be worked on. That will have more tailwinds, especially with the coming of more fintechs in the space, trying to provide funding. Like I said, the gap in Nigeria is $32 billion, so you need an average of 32 unicorns to solve these issues for them. But the good thing is, with the coming of more fintechs in the space, we'll have faster decisions to credit. People are building, for instance, we at Trade Lender, we are building around AIs, smart algorithms, such that we can make faster credit decisions to these SMEs. And I believe these are things that would effectively assist the MSMEs to get more fundings in this year. Also, there's a lot more focus around private sector. And I think late last year, around December last year, we heard of partnerships between the IFC, the BOI, and the likes. All coming together, thinking of ways to support more SMEs. So yeah, this year we should have more fundings going to these SMEs. Yeah.
And taking you back to artificial intelligence, helping with companies that give out credit to give out funds quicker. How exactly is that going to work with AI?
Okay, so AI is one important thing in achieving this would be data. So fintechs need to gather a lot of data, work around a lot of data, train their systems through machine learning, through artificial intelligence, train their systems to follow certain smart algorithms, and train their systems to make decisions based on certain metrics. But you can only train the system by training this system with large data. So there's a need for a large data. So more fintechs need to gather as much data as they can to train their system, and that way they'll be able to make more decisions. But today, yeah, we are starting to see various fintechs build various policies, various frameworks that they are using to train their system.
All right, what are startup trends do you think we should expect in 2023 for Africa?
Okay, I think it's been an interesting one. 2020 to date, we've experienced growth when it comes to the startup trend. More fundings have come to Africa. From 2021, we had just about $4 billion coming to Africa. It's increased to about $5.3 billion in 2022. But for Nigeria, it dropped. It dropped from about $1.32 billion in 2021 to $1.2 billion in 2022. But the good thing is 2023 presents us more opportunities across Africa, even in Nigeria. We've seen more Nigerian companies and African companies get into global accelerators. We've seen more interest from global VCs from all the blocks, from the American blocks, from the Euro bloc, from the Asian bloc, all interested in African companies and getting into and funding African companies. So definitely we should have more fundings coming in. And recently also, interestingly, a lot more companies in the US are talking about diversity, are talking about funding women-led companies, funding Black-led companies. So yeah, this year across Africa, in Nigeria, we should have more funding coming and more support for startups. Yeah. And I think the government also should find ways. Oh yeah, and late last year, we had the startup bill that came in, that was signed. So that should also support more SMEs, or we should start enjoying the fruits of that. This year.
All right, well, we'll keep tracking the trends there in 2020. Thank you so much. That was Shina Arugundade, CEO, Trade Lender. It was great having your perspective today. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Yeah.
All right, let's move on to East Africa now. We see Kenyans living and working abroad defy the tough economic times to send home a record 497.2 billion shillings in 2022, giving the much-needed support to families and friends back home. Last year's inflows were 8.3% more compared to 458.9 billion shillings sent in 2021. According to the Central Bank of Kenya, inflows were strong in December at $357.3 million, an increase of 3.4% compared to 345.4 million shillings in November. And to West Africa now, interest rates in Ghanaian debt market remained stable despite the government achieving more than 52% oversubscription of its treasury bill sale. According to latest auction results, the government obtained 1.72 billion cedis from the short-term securities, but accepted 1.71 billion cedis of the bids tendered. The yield on the 91-day and the 182-day T-bills dipped slightly, though relatively same from previous week. This is despite December 2022 inflation shooting up to 54.1%. Analysts expect T-bill yields to decline as an expected international monetary fund support program in the first quarter of 2023, coupled with stable outlook of CD, may limit currency pass-through to inflation. Data from the Central Agency for Public Mobilization and Statistics, that's CAPMAS, revealed an increase in the value of Egyptian exports to various countries of the world. It reached $42.8 billion during the first 10 months of 2022, compared to $34.7 billion during the same period in 2021, an increase of $8.1 billion. That's about 23.3%. CAPMAS added that the top 10 countries importing from Egypt during the first 10 months of 2022 were Spain, came in first with a value of $3.1 billion, then Turkey with $3.1 billion, and Italy with $2.8 billion, followed by the US with $2 billion, then Saudi Arabia with about $2 billion of export from Egypt. And that's how the African economies are looking today, and that's how your markets and your money performed earlier at intraday. Thank you so much for watching Business Incorporated today. Catch you tomorrow. I'm Ladi Williams. Bye for now.